The San Antonio Spurs may already have the NBA's next death lineup, but the one thing deciding whether Mitch Johnson can actually unleash it is not defense, talent, or size. It is whether 5 dangerous players can create enough space for one another when the game slows down. De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Carter Bryant, and Victor Wembanyama give San Antonio speed, shot creation, switchable defense, and elite rim protection inside one group. On paper, it looks unfair. In a playoff fourth quarter, however, one weakness in the spacing could turn that advantage against them. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this lineup could become San Antonio's most destructive weapon, what every player must improve before it works, and the difficult decision Johnson may eventually face about which talented Spur is left outside the closing 5.
The first thing to understand is that this does not need to become San Antonio's regular starting lineup. Its real value would come as a closing unit or a change of pace weapon that forces an opponent to solve several problems at once. Fox supplies the burst and proven primary creation. Harper adds size, downhill pressure, and another player capable of initiating offense. Castle brings physicality, connective playmaking, and point-of-attack defense. Bryant can handle the most dangerous opposing wing while moving between the 3 and the 4. Wembanyama controls the paint and changes the geometry of every possession. That is why calling this a small lineup would be misleading. 4 of the 5 players have the length or strength to defend above their listed position, and the 5th is the most disruptive interior defender in the league. San Antonio would be playing without a traditional power forward, but it would not be surrendering size in the places that matter most.
Defense is the easiest reason to believe in the idea. Wembanyama averaged a league-leading 3.1 blocks last season, but his value extends beyond the shots he actually touches. Drivers hesitate when he is waiting near the rim. Ball handlers release the ball earlier, and offenses abandon actions that would normally create high-percentage attempts. Bryant gives San Antonio the type of wing defender needed to maximize that fear. He can pick up larger creators, chase across screens, and use his athleticism to recover after appearing beaten. Put Castle at the point of attack, Bryant on the most difficult wing assignment, and Wembanyama behind them, and the Spurs can apply pressure without leaving the basket unprotected. Fox and Harper would not need to carry the hardest defensive jobs. They could use their speed and size in passing lanes, conserve energy for offense, and attack before the opposing defense gets organized.
But there is another layer that makes the defense potentially special. This group could change matchups without changing personnel. Castle can move between guards and wings. Bryant can defend wings and many forwards. Harper has the frame to avoid being hunted immediately. And Wembanyama can survive away from the basket before recovering into the play. That would allow Johnson to switch selected actions, blitz a hot scorer, or play more aggressively at the level of the screen. The risk is rebounding. If Wembanyama gets pulled toward the perimeter and Bryant is occupied by a larger forward, the 3 guards must finish the possession instead of watching the ball. A stop is not complete until San Antonio secures the rebound. That detail could decide whether this unit becomes a genuine playoff weapon or merely produces a few spectacular defensive highlights. And as important as that question is, defense still is not the factor most likely to keep this lineup off the floor.
The real test begins on offense. Fox, Harper, and Castle can all create an advantage off the dribble, but only one player can control the ball at a time. The best version starts with Fox using Wembanyama as a screener, because that action can force 2 defenders to react immediately. If the defense contains Fox, Wembanyama can roll into open space. If help arrives from the wing, Harper can attack the rotating defender. Castle can screen, cut, or work as a connector instead of waiting for an isolation. Bryant can occupy the corner, punish a late closeout, and use his strength on a straight-line drive. The possession would not depend on one player beating 5 defenders. It would create one advantage and then ask every Spur to extend it before the defense recovers. With 3 ball handlers, San Antonio could also keep the same pressure after the first action fails, instead of resetting into a difficult shot late in the clock.
That sounds devastating, but it reveals the central problem. Fox, Harper, and Castle are most dangerous when moving toward the basket, and defenses cannot allow all 3 of them to do that on the same possession. Someone must create value without the ball. Fox showed the shooting ceiling early last season when he averaged 22.4 points and made 39.5% of his threes over his first 20 games. but that efficiency did not remain consistent enough to compensate when he stopped reaching the rim. Castle and Harper both showed encouraging growth as perimeter shooters during the second half of the season, yet playoff defenses will demand proof on repeated catch-and-shoot opportunities. If a defender can leave one of those guards to crowd Wembanyama's role or block Fox's driving lane, the lineup loses the space that makes it frightening. The names remain impressive, but the geometry stops working.
And that makes Carter Bryant the quiet swing player in the entire experiment. His defense is already the reason to put him beside Wembanyama, Castle, Fox, and Harper. But defense alone will not guarantee closing minutes on a roster this deep. Bryant shot 33.5% from beyond the arc in a limited rookie role. That was enough to show possibility, not enough to make opponents afraid of leaving him. He must turn open threes into a dependable consequence and become a stronger finisher when defenders chase him off the line. He does not need to become a high-usage scorer. He needs to make the simple decision quickly. Shoot when open, attack a tilted closeout, cut when his defender turns away, and move the ball before the advantage disappears. If Bryant does that consistently, his defensive value can hold this lineup together. If he does not, Johnson has experienced shooters who can take his place.
That leads to the player who is not included in this proposed five, Devin Vassell. Any serious discussion of a Spurs closing lineup must acknowledge that omission. Vassell provides perimeter shooting and established half-court scoring, two qualities this group may need most. Leaving him out would only make sense when San Antonio values defensive versatility, transition pressure, and multiple downhill creators more than conventional spacing. In other matchups, Vassell could replace Bryant, Harper, or even one of the other guards to produce a cleaner offensive balance. This is not a weakness in the roster. It is evidence of Mitch Johnson's challenge. He has enough talent to construct different closing groups, but every choice sacrifices something. The proposed death lineup offers the highest defensive ceiling. A version with Vassell may offer the safer offensive floor. Johnson will have to recognize which problem matters on a particular night before the opponent forces the decision for him.
Wembanyama is the player who can make those compromises less important. He averaged 25.0 points, 11.5 rebounds, and 3.1 blocks last season. Yet this lineup asks him to become more than a dominant finisher and defensive eraser. He must punish every coverage created by the guards around him. Against a switch, he needs to establish position before the smaller defender receives help. Against a drop, he can pop into space or attack the middle before the lane closes. Against a blitz on Fox, he must catch in the short roll and immediately decide whether to score, pass to Bryant in the corner, or find Harper cutting behind the rotation. San Antonio has already seen flashes of that complete offensive control. The next step is making it available late in games, when opponents change coverages from one possession to the next, and every delayed read gives the defense time to recover. There is also a question of hierarchy, and this may be harder to solve than any diagram. Fox was at his best last season when the offense belonged to him. During a 10-game stretch without Wembanyama and Castle, he averaged 26.8 points and 6.9 assists, far above the 18.8 points and 6.1 assists he averaged across the full season. That does not mean San Antonio should reduce Harper or Castle to spectators. It means the lineup needs defined responsibilities. Fox should begin most possessions as the primary organizer. Harper can attack the second side and lead after cross matches or turnovers. Castle can connect actions, set physical screens, cut, and take over selected matchups. Wembanyama can become the final decision maker once two defenders commit. When everyone tries to initiate, the floor becomes crowded and the rhythm disappears. When each player attacks the defense at the correct stage of the possession, the same group becomes almost impossible to predict.
This is where internal development could change San Antonio's entire season without another major transaction. If Castle and Harper become reliable catch-and-shoot threats, Johnson no longer has to choose between their playmaking and spacing. If Bryant becomes a consistent shooter and finisher, the Spurs can keep an elite wing defender on the floor without shrinking the offense. If Fox regains his speed and accepts a structure that still gives him primary creation without requiring every touch, his best traits return. If Wembanyama becomes a quicker and more physical late-game shot creator, every mistake made by the defense carries a greater cost. None of those improvements requires a player to become something completely unfamiliar. Each is an extension of an ability already visible. The uncertainty is whether all of those steps happen at the same time, because the lineup only becomes truly devastating when the 5 improvements connect.
Johnson should therefore treat this group as a weapon to develop.
not a finished product to force. He can test it during short regular season stretches, especially against opponents that use one center and several perimeter creators. He can evaluate which guard opponents choose to ignore, whether Bryant commands honest closeouts, and whether the group rebounds well enough after Wembanyama contests away from the rim. He can also use it after timeouts or during fourth quarter runs, when a few possessions of aggressive defense can change an entire game. The goal is not to prove the nickname correct in October. It is to collect enough evidence that San Antonio can trust the lineup in April, May, and potentially June. A death lineup earns its reputation by surviving the adjustments that arrive after the opponent understands what is coming.
So what is the final answer? Fox, Harper, Castle, Bryant, and Wembanyama can become the Spurs' most dangerous closing lineup, but only if their off-ball development makes every defensive choice expensive. The defense is already easy to imagine. Castle disrupting the point of attack, Bryant erasing a wing, and Wembanyama waiting behind them. The offense becomes special when Fox gets downhill. Harper attacks the next rotation. Castle keeps the possession moving. Bryant punishes the open corner, and Wembanyama controls the final decision. If defenders can abandon one of those players, the lane closes and the lineup becomes theoretical. If they cannot, there is no safe place to send help. That is the real definition of a death lineup. Not 5 famous names, but 5 players who remove every comfortable answer an opponent normally uses. For the Spurs, that possibility matters beyond one creative combination. It gives Mitch Johnson a closing ceiling that few teams can match, and creates competition that should accelerate the development of San Antonio's young core. It may also force difficult choices involving Vassell and other proven rotation players, but championship teams need more than one way to finish games. They need the ability to change the question before an opponent finds the answer. If you believe this 5-man group deserves a real test next season, like the video and subscribe for more Spurs analysis. Then watch our breakdown of why San Antonio must put the ball back in De'Aaron Fox's hands, because his role may be the single biggest factor determining whether this death lineup ever reaches its full potential.